Good day to you all, comrades and friends. This is Global Weekly News, serial number 38. First, Iran-Saudi Arabia relations. On 10th March, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Iran Islamic Republic, and People's Republic of China released a joint tripartite statement. This statement reveals the fact that relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran are restored. Iran-Saudi Arabia relations deteriorated since 2016. Iranian protesters protested before the embassy of Saudi Arabia in Tehran. This protest took place to condemn the hanging of Shia cleric and a critic of Saudi government, Nim Bahir al-Nim. Saudi Arabia and its allies, as a follow-up action, severed its ties, cuts its ties with Iran, disconnected its ties with Iran. As per the trilateral statement, agreement between nations means that sovereignty of nations shall be respected and there shall not be any interference in the internal affairs of other nations. Preventing US domination, especially in West Asia, China's diplomatic efforts have paid dividends. China declared in a meeting of Gulf countries held at Riyadh that China will pay its currency yuan instead of US dollars to purchase oil and natural gas from the Gulf countries. Saudi's foreign minister said that it will strengthen its ties with China, and Saudi does not believe in polarization, and Saudi does not like to take an one-sided view. Vijay Prasad, Marxist scholar and a veteran journalist, writes about the tripartite statement. China has unified Saudi Arabia and Iran. US desires that Saudi shall join the military alliance with Israel against Iran. We shall understand about who takes a position to bring about regional peace during our times. Comrades and friends, we are going to see International Working Women's Day. 8th March, International Working Women's Day was celebrated all over the globe. In major cities of Pakistan, working women's rallies were held. Women of Pakistan raised the slogan, "We demand a proper reply from the government. What does the government do to remove poverty and hunger?" Women's organizations all over the world jointly condemned the proxy war of NATO in Ukraine. Due to this war, all over the world, especially the global south countries, face crisis after crisis. Socialist platform of Venezuela's women demonstrated for a peaceful settlement of Russia-Ukraine war. Third, we are going to see, comrades, struggle of Palestinian prisoners. This is not regularly reported in international media. There are about 4,700 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, including 160 children and 29 women. In the elections in Israel in November 2022, far-right government led by Benjamin Netanyahu took over power. Israel's defense minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has taken a number of steps to victimize the Palestinian prisoners. Ben-Gvir cancelled some of the rights of the prisoners in January of this year. He prevented MPs, parliament members, from visiting Palestinian prisoners. He withdrew various concessions also. He imposed many conditions for their movement within their jails. The prisoners are no more allowed to possess electronic gadgets. Shower bath timings were also reduced. Security checks inside the jails were strengthened. Bakeries producing fresh bread in some jails were closed. So the idea of the Israeli government is Palestinian prisoners shall not get fresh bread. Palestinian prisoners began civil disobedience movement against the tortures they are facing. On 5th March, this movement completed 20 days of civil disobedience movement. Israeli authorities did not accept any of the demands. Therefore, the prisoners decided to extend their struggles. The prisoners blocked all sections between 10 a.m. and to 1 p.m. Next phase of action will be indefinite mass hunger strike. Ben-Gvir brands the Palestinian prisoners as terrorists to be hanged. He says that till their hanging, they shall be treated as terrorists. Such is the atrocity of the rightist Israeli government. The world shall condemn in strongest terms. Comrades and friends, we are going to Sri Lanka now. On 9th March, elections to 340 local councils should have taken place in Sri Lanka. Last local body elections took place in 2018. That means elections should have actually taken place after 4 years, that is in 2022. When economic crisis reached its peak, Wickramasinghe government postponed the elections on the plea of no finance for conducting elections. The opposition, civil social groups, international organizations like Asian Network strongly protested against the postponement. On 24th February, the government made the announcement of postponement. On 26th February, the opposition, National People's Power, NPP, launched a massive protest against the decision, and thousands of protesters marched in Colombo facing brutal police action, including firing of tear gas and water cannons. At least 15 people were injured and one NPP worker, that is National People's Power Party, worker died. The General Secretary of the main opposition party filed a petition in the Supreme Court against the postponement of local body elections. On 3rd March, Sri Lanka's Supreme Court issued an interim order restraining authorities from withholding funds for the local polls, which are set to cost $3 crore. Subsequently, April 25 was announced as the date for elections. For nearly a year, Sri Lanka has been reeling under a severe economic crisis marked by shortages of essentials like food, fuel and medicines. In the beginning of this year, Wickramasinghe government introduced a new income tax policy widely seen as an attempt to appease the IMF in order to secure a bailout loan. Since coming to power, 5-time Prime Minister and now the President Wickramasinghe has ruled with an iron fist, scuttling dissent, arresting activists and shifting the tax burden onto the working classes. Comrades, we are going to America now. Release Mumia Abu Jamal. Mumia Abu Jamal is a member of Revolutionary Black Panther Party in USA. US government put him in jail in 1981 on the false allegation of killing a white policeman. On 10th March, National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, and Revolutionary Socialist Workers Party protested before US Embassy in Pretoria, the administrative capital of South Africa, for the release of Mumia, who even at the age of 68 is in US jail for more than 40 years now. Mumia is a political prisoner. Global solidarity campaign for release of Mumia is going on for more than 1 month. Mumia is ill due to lack of enough medical treatment within the jail. US bureaucracy is following corruption and blatant apartheid. In 1960s, many struggles were conducted all over the world by civil rights movement which drew the attention of the people. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X became world icons. They fought for human justice and died. South African people, they like peace. In the eyes of US police, a black man in USA looks as a culprit. On 10th March, NUMSA, after demonstrations, wanted to meet the US Embassy officials, but they refused. NUMSA office bearers wanted to hand over a letter to the officials regarding Numia's release. Finally, with a heavy police escort, NUMSA met the officials. In 2018, when Mumia completed 36 years of incarceration or jail life, 6 boxes of evidence were gathered in Philadelphia. District Attorney Office revealed the fact that witnesses against Mumia were bribed. Mumia's lawyer filed a petition for a new trial. Clemens, Philadelphia judge, said action will be taken within 90 days. 90 days are over on 16th March. Let us see what happens in USA. Whether it is going to release Mumia Abu Jamal, who has been in US jail for more than 40 years. America boasts about being the biggest democracy in the world, but this is the apartheid condition in USA. Comrades and friends, we are going to Congo now. There are rebel groups in Congo, and let us see who are behind these rebel groups. In Democratic Republic of Congo, despite many negotiations and agreements between the government and M23 rebel groups, the rebel group is now called as M23 rebel groups. The rebels continue their genocide attacks. Lots of people were killed, especially at eastern border with Rwanda, where rebel groups were active. We have to look back the history of Democratic Republic of Congo. In the past, M23 rebel groups were active in different names. Due to the action of the rebels, lakhs of people had to be displaced. Between 1998 and 2007, 54 lakhs people died. US and British multinational companies are using the M23 rebel groups to exploit the natural resources of Congo. Rwanda is supporting M23 rebel groups of Congo. Rwanda is protecting the interests of US and UK multinationals. On 3rd March, Emmanuel Macron, French president, visited Democratic Republic of Congo. Hundreds of people protested against his visit before the French embassy. They consider Macron as an assassin, as a killer. He shall not enter Congo. All over Western Africa, the mood of the people, the sentiment of the people is rising against the French presence of military troops. They all desire that French troops shall be sent out of African soil. The protesters carried Russian flag. France wants Congo to condemn Russia in the Ukraine war, but Congo is not prepared to do it. French is the official language in Congo. France's Total Oil Company has an eye on Congo's mineral wealth. Jariva, another MNC company, is using Congo's uranium. Emmanuel Macron was accompanied by a billionaire who is interested in investing in Congo. In the Sahel region of Africa, countries like Mali, Burkina Faso decided to send out French troops. Congo's people consider French president, Rwanda's president, and M23 rebel groups as their enemies. European Union recently sent $2 crore military aid to Rwanda. Why this aid? Rwanda acts as a proxy of France and European countries. In the name of bringing peace in Mozambique, Rwanda is helping French oil company to exploit the oil wealth of Mozambique. 7th and lastly, we are going to see collapse of 3 banks in the United States. On 10th March, the Silicon Valley Bank collapsed in the second bank failure in US history, topped only by the 2008 recession era failure of Washington Mutual. So, Washington Mutual is the first bank failure. Second, now Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Silicon Valley Bank, which was founded in 1983 and was the go-to bank for technical startups and other venture capitalists, was the 16th largest US bank according to assets. Venture capitalist means they invest in new startup coming up industries with an expectation that the company will prosper in future and they will get a lot of returns. The bank failure has sent the US economy staggering, reeling, with many working people concerned about the impact this could have on their paychecks, personal savings, and whether or not a 2008-like crisis could be provoked. US authorities have attempted to employ a crisis control strategy, with the US President Joe Biden addressing the nation in televised remarks on 13th March saying, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them. The Silicon Valley Bank failure was precipitated by the Federal Reserve hiking interest rates, which devalued government bonds, which Silicon Valley Bank had invested heavily in and are usually safe instruments. The Reserve Bank had been raising interest rates as a way to combat inflation. Best way to drive down inflation is to fight the true cause, price gouging, through a price freeze and taxing profits made through gouging. The US government typically only insures deposits up to US dollars 2.5 lakhs, but the vast majority of Silicon Valley Bank deposits exceeded that amount. A sum total of US dollars 15,160 crores beyond 2.5 lakh dollar limit. However, the government announced on 12th March that it will cover the full uninsured sum to Silicon Valley Bank customers, leaving public funds severely depleted in case there is another massive bank failure. On 12th March, New York-based Signature Bank became the third largest bank in US history to fail with the US dollars 11,000 crores in assets, setting off alarms of more failures to come. Venture capitalists are bailed out by US government, but working people are facing a bad situation. Most people in the US have trouble paying weekly expenses. Rents have been skyrocketing, with over 40% of the tenants paying over 30% of their income towards rent. Food insecurity is also at a record high at 3.4 crore people. So these are all the news this week. Let us see next week. Thank you, comrades. Lal Salam.